Home Amateur Radio Club has participated in Field Day for several years, as long as I can remember, and probably long before that. This year the Field Day site is going to be at the Emergency Operations Center here in Sault Ste. Marie on Old Garden River Road. So this is the first time that we've operated from that site. We're hoping to operate 2 stations in the category of 2 Foxtrot from the Emergency Operations Center. It's a special classification that we have for EOCs across North America for operating the stations there. So what we're looking for is we are looking for operators to help out with the operation of the station. It starts Saturday, June 25th at 2 p.m. local time, and runs until the following Sunday, 2 p.m. local time. This is a 24-hour event where you try to contact as many stations as you can in that 24-hour period. You can only contact the same station once on each radio band. So our education director, Bruce, VA3ZB, is coordinating the scheduling of operators. We need operators for the Morse code station, the CW station, and also for the phone station, the sideband station. And usually work in pairs. One operator operating the radio and the other one operating the computer to log the calls. It's for those of you that haven't been involved in it before, it's a lot of fun. You get to see how propagation works across North America, camaraderie with your fellow hams, and it's a fun and interesting time. So I hope you can take some time out of your schedule on the weekend to put in a couple hours at the Field Day site. So that's my pitch for Field Day. I hope to see you there. I'd like to introduce our speaker for this evening, Allan Boyd, V3AJB. Allan holds many titles. The most recent one is he's the RAC, or Radio Amateurs of Canada Director for Ontario North and East. And just to give you a little bio of Al, he was born and grew up in Montreal, Quebec. After graduating school, Allan's family moved to Ontario, where he finished his post-secondary education and joined the Ontario Provincial Police Force, where he served going through the ranks and became a senior officer, and won the Freedom Free at Last in December of this year. So he's just recently retired with 35 years of service to the people of Ontario. And Al lives in Little Current, Ontario with Judy of 33 years of marriage. Al was first licensed as an amateur radio operator in the summer of 1987 with the call sign V3AJB, Victor Echo 3 Alpha Juliet Bravo, which he still holds. And he joined both, boy, this is going back, Canadian Amateur Radio Federation, CARF, and CRRRL, which was the Canadian Radio Relay League. It was a Canadian version of the ARRL. Those 2 organizations merged together at one point, and now it's Radio Amateurs of Canada. After he got his call sign a year later, he got the 20 word per minute Morse code endorsement and has his advanced license. And Al was a founding member of the Manitoulin Amateur Radio Club, which started in 1988. And he's held many executive positions in the club and is presently president of the club with over 100 members. Wow. Good sized club there.
Yeah. It's
in 1993, Allan joined RAC, and during this time, Allan became a volunteer examiner for Industry Canada, taught many amateur radio courses. He was appointed the emergency coordinator for ARES for the District of Manitoulin, and Allan's experience with emergency planning was one of his duties as an OPP officer, and he was quick to establish an ARES emergency plan for all emergency responders and municipalities which are in use today. Through RAC, Allan had many titles such as net manager for the ARES HFNet, also an official bulletin station for RAC, and in 2006 Allan became section manager for field services in Ontario. Allan was instrumental in reorganizing ARES districts to align with EMO, the Emergency Management Ontario. And he also sat as a RAC Assistant Director for Ontario for many years. you ever have any free time? In 2012.
It's blown
on.
Yeah.
Al realized that one person as section manager for the province could not serve the amateurs of the province, and he was part of a study that was conducted through the province, and that's how we got divided up into 4 sections. And Allan was held the elected position of section manager for Ontario North, ONN. In the summer of 2015, Allan was appointed as deputy director for RAC for Ontario North and East, and then in January 2016, Allan's recently been appointed as the director for Ontario North and East, filling the vacant position of our newly elected president, Glenn McDonnell, E3XRA. Al maintains many repeater systems for Manitoulin area and enjoys HF and VHF UHF communications. Al also hosts as net control the Friday night CanNet, Canadian Dstar net, which averages about 70 to 80 check-ins from all over the world. And Al plans to stay a little current during his retirement and devote his time to RAC and amateur radio. And I don't know how much more time you can devote there, buddy.
Thank you very much, Brent. Okay, thank you. Well, thank you very much, Brent. I've known Brent for many, many years as he traveled across Highway 17 in his motorcycle. We used to have a picture of him up in the detachments because we knew how he friend for many years in the club. And thank you so much to the Algoma Club for inviting me here to visit you this weekend. It's worked out really well. One of the other things I do, I sit on the board of directors for victim services. It's something I've been involved with the OPP. Just so happens this weekend they have their big conference at the Delta, so that's where I'm holed up this weekend and be involved in that starting tomorrow night. So it worked out great, and thank you so much to Bruce for inviting me out here this evening. What I'd hope to do this evening is just give you information on some of the latest things that's happening in regards to digital technology that's going on out there. We'll break. I have some props that I brought with me that I'll do demonstrations. If anybody has any questions, feel free to stop me at any time through the presentation this evening. I don't profess to be an expert in this area. It's just something that I dwell on a bit and have taken on as a personal interest in that. And I think you know, getting people involved in Dstar in Northern Ontario was one of my goals, and you guys hosted me I think a couple of years ago when I came up and just introduced Dstar. It was fairly new at that time, and here you have your own repeater system and operational, so that's great. I would like to just take about 5 or 10 minutes and talk a little bit about RAC. As Brent mentioned, I've just been elected as director for Northern Ontario and East for the Radio Amateurs of Canada. And it's something that's been very near and dear to my heart to be belonging to this organization. And I hear a lot of things, and you know, throughout the years when I've been involved in RAC and gone around and met clubs and talked to hams at ham fests and that, and one of the things and the question is, what the hell is RAC doing for me? You know, like, what does it do out there? There's a lot of people that have got disinterest in it, which is understandable, because one of the main problems with RAC is they're very poor in selling themselves and letting the public know, the amateur community know exactly what is going on. So I said, once I retire, I'm going to get into the executive and into the board of directors and wake some of these directors up as to what's actually going on. And this is one of my goals over the next 2 or 3 years as I have this position, is I want to visit every amateur radio club within my region, because I think the most important thing that you need to see from your national organization is put a face to the name. And any complaints or problems or concerns or something, please let me know, because I will make sure it gets back to the board of directors and let them know. RAC has done quite a bit, and unfortunately a lot of you out there may not know what they're been involved in. They're doing a lot of things behind the scenes, and in the last couple of years we've finally gone from the red into the black. We're making money now, And a lot of that is because of the increased memberships, thanks to clubs like yourself and Bruce putting on amateur radio courses. We're getting a lot of new people involved in the hobby, and there is a bit of a resurgence in regards to people getting involved. And as a result of that, we are getting memberships, and we're in a good position. However, yeah.
Do you know approximately how
Yes,
many
I'm
members
just
you
going to
have?
say that right
Oh,
now.
okay, I'm sorry.
Not a problem. No, because that is a good question. There are 35,000 licensed amateurs, roughly, in Canada. 4,968 are the latest numbers that we got last month that are RAC members. So 5,000 out of 35,000, right? Now, I understand you can't belong to every organization out there. A lot of you support your local club, which is great. You may have an adjoining club that you support, and that. The $50 or $56 a year is a lot of money to belong to RAC. However, having said that, it is our national voice out there. Compared to the ARRL, there's 250,000 amateurs in the U.S., and they have, there's 250,000 amateurs in the U.S., and I forget what the latest number. There's over 100,000 that are part of the ARRL. So I mean, they get a lot, but they also produce a lot more. They have quite a number of publications out there. They've got all kinds of scholarship programs and that are going for it. RAC is slowly trying to build that. Some of the highlights, and I'm not going to take too much time on this, but things that you need to know, and I talking to Brent and that, he said you do have insurance through RAC, which is great. There's $5 million liability, and so if any of you are out doing a club function on behalf of that, and RAC is supporting it, whether it's an Aries or group or field day, or you're out doing a walkathon or a marathon or whatever the case is, out directing traffic, something happens to you, you do have the $5 million liability. Now, most insurance organizations only require $2 million. RAC went and fought for a $5 million policy. Anybody that houses repeaters on any commercial sites, especially the CBC, where we on Manitoulin have our main repeater on the CBC site, they want rental on there. If you can show that you've done 8 hours of emergency communications through an Aries related program, they will waive the fee. They want $200 a month or $2,400 a year. That's something that RAC fought for through the CBC and have done that way. Also, of course, to be on a tower, of course, they need the liability insurance and that, and our policy satisfies the needs of the CBC and any other commercial agency out there. So that's another good thing to support it. Now, the costing, if you are a club member and a RAC member, you only pay $1 per person for insurance for $5 million. Pretty good deal. If you're not a RAC member, then the club has to pay $11, $10 more, which is still a fairly good deal, but it's $10 out of your coffers within the club. So we encourage that. The other area that I didn't have a great knowledge on was our frequency spectrums. You wouldn't believe it. I was talking with the International Telecommunications Union Directorate officer within RAC, and he goes to the international conferences and that, and you wouldn't believe how many organizations are vying for our frequencies. They're willing to pay millions and millions of dollars and that, and the latest one that they're trying to get is our 440 band. We have 20 megahertz from 430 to 450 megs, and they're saying, well, hams don't need all that room and all that with it. Just think what we can do and how much we can pay the governments if we can get some of that spectrum, or have amateurs become secondary users of those frequencies. Well, the Radio Amateurs of Canada is fighting very hard so that we can keep that, along with the other organizations across the world, to do that. So another reason why it's important to support RAC. The other things we're also looking at in relation to the distracted driving, myself and Phil McBride, the Southern Director of Ontario, as some of you may or may not know, coming up January 1st, 2018, our exemption under the distracted driving legislation under the Highway Traffic Act is going to be revoked, which means we're not going to be able to use mobile radios, two-way radios in the cars anymore. So we're fighting very hard to maintain and get ARIES information out to the governments, and we're going to be putting a briefing note and package together for the Ministry of Transportation using our local MPPs to hopefully support that. I'm pretty confident that we will be able to get this exemption to be full-time with it. And I know from police front, we're not concerned about ham radio operators talking on a microphone, because it's a, you know, it's a simplex, a dual simplex conversation, whether in a full duplex conversation where you get on the phone. And I know, I talk from experience where I followed somebody and you can see them, their heads bobbing, and I'm in a full black and white and I've got the lights going, not the siren, but I'm following them for 3 or 4 kilometers, and never once do they look in their side view mirrors or their rear view mirrors. I eventually have to pull the cruiser up beside them, and they're driving, and then, you know, they're talking like this, and then all of a sudden they look and like, where the hell did you come from, right? And this is where our concerns are. They're, you know, steering with their elbows, trying to, you know, text and do things like that. So those are where the concerns are. It's not the two-way mobile communications, because I mean, we've had radios in cars since the inception of you know, the cars itself, and of course there's always that catch-all careless driving, which is, doesn't matter what you're doing, whether you're putting lipstick on or you're eating a bowl of cereal or you're looking in the back seat or whatever, driving without due care and attention. So that's something we're really working on, and very hard, so that amateurs in Ontario will be able to keep that exemption. So we do appreciate your support. Those that are members, thank you very much. We do appreciate it. Other things that we're doing, and we're going to be coming out with a package. And what we've just started doing is, I'll just let you hear a couple of these. We're working on doing PSAs, public service announcements, both for television and radio. So these are some of them that we're just starting to produce.
1. The word amateur. The word can mean a lack of skill, but it can also mean someone that does it simply for love of the activity. Like in amateur sports, ham radio people are amateurs in the best way. For over 70 years, they have provided emergency communications for free, bringing thousands of dollars of their own equipment, hundreds of people, and serving their communities, all for free. The amateur radio emergency services are amateurs, in the best sense of the word.
So we're getting these PSAs, we've got a couple
3,
more here too,
2,
that we're going to
1.
get out to clubs so that you can put them on your local
Consider
radio
the word
stations.
friendly to find commonalities and make alliances with other people, to create warm relationships, even with strangers. Amateur radio operators make friends with people all over the world, using voice, digital, or even old Morse code communications. Hams share ideas and events with others, across the street or across continents. In an age where people are often isolated and hardly know their neighbors, ham radio makes a global neighborhood of friends. Ham radio. It's friendly.
So what we're doing is we're putting together a package with
3,
pamphlets that you can
2,
hand out to mayors
1.
and councils, and
The
a
word
video.
reliable. In an emergency, you need something that works, something you can count on. For over 70 years, ham radio operators have been there, passing critical messages in emergencies, working in the background to make other people look like heroes. And while hurricanes, fires, floods, earthquakes, and tornadoes still happen, you can count on the amateur radio emergency services to still be there too. Ham radio. It's reliable.
So these are some of the commercials that RAC is producing so that we can get the word out to organizations about ARIES, about the hobby itself, so we can get young people involved and some of the things that are going on in relation to that. The other thing is we're putting together a package for clubs so that if you're at a public display, you're going to have pictures, you're going to have a video, like a 10 to 12 minute professionally produced video that's showing amateurs in Canada, not the US, but Canadian amateurs involved, like things like the Godridge tornado or the Peterborough floods, or even recently in the Fort McMurray fires, and get, let people know that we're out there in emergency wise, and pamphlets that you can hand to councils and mayors and that, so that you can get support for your club and other emergency services. So this in a nutshell is what we're doing kind of behind the scenes. And if you have any concerns about RAC or any problems that you want brought back, please give me a phone call at any time. Send me an email. I'll make sure that your words get up there. I had the Sudbury, when I was talking to the Sudbury crew, they said, you know what, why did RAC stop doing multiple year memberships with a reduced rate? Well, RAC was in the red at the time and we were losing money. Now that's changed around. The last board meeting, I brought it up, and now that's going to be introduced and it's going to be produced. We've got a new RAC website that's out there that is constantly being worked on and improved. That's going to be very user friendly, and the TCA is in digital format now, so that you can get it on the computer at a reduced rate versus getting the magazine too. So a lot of good things that are happening with it. So consider it, and if you can afford it, we'd love to have you part of the program with that. So that's my RAC speech. Yes, go ahead.
Great, yeah. What I was going to say is I noticed in one of the recent RAC reports,
Yes.
which is the digital in between the issues of the TCA magazine, that there's some sort of committee set up to look at ways of improving RAC or something,
Yes.
and they were after feedback.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what we're trying to do is, and the new incoming president has said, yeah, we suck at getting words out and doing the public services that way. So Allan Giffen, who is the editor of the TCA, has been, I'm going to be working with him, and we're going to, because of my public service communications background, and that we're working at producing things like these videos and these public service announcements, so that we can get word out to the general community what ham radio does. And that, and try and produce it in a positive way, but get feedback from what local clubs, what they want to hear, and that with it. So we are trying. Is it going to be overnight? Absolutely not. But we're trying to get words so that we're your national organization that you can.
Is this sort of an ongoing committee for?
Yes, it is.
Or
Yeah.
for a while.
Yeah, and it's something that's new. It's something that the previous executives
That's
would
right.
never look at.
No, I know.
And now that I'm on the national board, I'm yelling and screaming at them all the time, saying, "Look, I've been out there. I'm a field ham. I know what the amateurs want, and what you guys are doing here at the national level is BS." I said, "We need to do this. We need to," and slowly they're coming around and doing that. So we hope to turn it around and get more with it, because there's a lot of stuff that does go on behind the scenes. Yes.
Question / comment. On the RAC website, I see now all about all you can get is like T-shirts and coffee cups.
Right.
Did they have done away with like the nice engraved RAC name badges that you?
Well, what was happening with that, and the latest, and we're looking at possibly reproducing it. What was happening, we spent all kinds of, and that's why we went in the hole, because we bought all these jackets and all these caps and things, and people weren't buying it. And what ended up happening, RAC was giving it away for free. Well, we can't afford to spend thousands and thousands of dollars. If people were buying it off the shelves like they do with the ARRL, that would be a different story, but they weren't buying them. The Aries groups were developing their own stuff because there wasn't a national voice, and Dave knows very well too, because he sat on a lot of the committees and been privy to a lot of emails, that our training is now going to be far superior. We need a basic IMS 100 training. The manual has been changed. Everything is coming out so that we're going to be more professional, and we're trying to get away from the image to mayors and police chiefs and fire chiefs and that, the guy that shows up with 6 handhelds on his thing with the stained t-shirt and the ball cap sideways, and I'm here to save the world, right? Well, in today's day and age with emergencies like the Fort McMurray, you show up acting like that and they're just going to laugh at you, so we're trying to get that image changed for sure. All right, excellent. So, talking about images. Well, tonight I'm going to get going here and searching for signal. Come on. What's happening here?
Congratulations on your appointment. by the
Oh,
way.
well, thank you very much, Dave. I appreciate that. Where's my...
Dave, Richard, DIT, DPT, UPG the light man. Oh, all right. Oh, I'm still looking for signal. Okay, now there you go.
All right, well, how do we produce amateur radio out there? One of the... hopefully this isn't going to cause some issues here. Come on. There we go. All right. So one of the things that I was at the ICOM Dstar, and who did they have? They had the producer of Last Man Standing there, who is an amateur himself and very ICOM support him. So they brought him in to talk about, has anybody seen Last Man Standing with Tim Allan? It's a ABC sitcom. Basically the concept is Tim Allan has his wife and 3 daughters. So he's a ham radio operator, and what he does is he escapes to his ham shack to get away from all the estrogen from the family members and that, and it's a comedy surrounding it, but it's also promoting amateur radio. So I was able to obtain a little clip, and this is how amateur radio is now being seen out in the world. Take a look at his shack. It's all ICOM equipment donated by ICOM.
Wait, you know what was there before?
Come on in here, I want to show you something. This. Ready? Alright. Mike, KA0XTT. Just a little shout out. Anybody having a good time here on Thanksgiving? Anybody hiding in their basement to avoid their relatives? These guys, if I don't want to listen to them, I'll just turn them down like this.
Grandpa, this is due on Monday.
Alright, calm down. Let's do your little report. What am I thankful for? I'm thankful for radio, specifically ham radio. Ham radio is heavily regulated by the FCC, the same people who censor network television but not cable, so drug dealers and murderers become our heroes. They not only censor, but they regulate my ham radio. They require me to have a license, test, and if they don't like what I have to say, they can fine me or lock me up. A great way to treat the last line of communication during the coming apocalypse. Why does the government choose to regulate free speech and ham radio, but anybody can operate, I don't know, a hemp outlet? So this Thanksgiving, while the rest of you are enjoying your turkey, I'm savoring my ham. Happy Thanksgiving, FCC, because I know you're listening.
So a little bit of comedy, but it's getting the word out there about ham radio, and ICOM is supplied. If you look at his shack, it's unbelievable. And Tim Allan is actually a licensed ham in that and does get on.
Was that his real call?
No, is OAG or something like that. I'm not sure what it is.
When it first
but,
started up, I think it had its
yeah,
real call.
yes, that's
And
right.
then, of course, there's
Yeah.
the call he uses on the program.
But then we have the other side in regards to
This is WA3QIZ. Do you read me?
Seymour, isn't it about time you made a real friend?
Mother, please, I'm communicating with my fellow hams.
How do I talk? Push this button here. You're all losers!
so that's how the Simpsons look at us. You know, I mean, you get one extreme to the other, but there you go. So, and last but not least, we do get outlets in just every.
How long you guys been doing Morse code?
38 years?
38 years.
43 years in ham radio.
43 years in ham radio. Okay. We're going to give each team a card with the same sentence on it. Who do you think will be the fastest to get the message to their partner? Morse code or text messaging?
Text messaging.
You think text messaging
yeah.
will beat Morse code? How old is Morse code?
170 years.
170 years. 170 years. Okay. All right, gentlemen, let's sit down at our desks. Okay. Now, in front of you is a card. Don't turn it over just yet. They both have the same sentence on it. When I say ready, set, go, when I say go, flip over your card, and send the message to your partner at the other desk, okay? Ready, set, go! Yell out as soon as you have the message, and then read me the message. You can hear the Morse code. Can you hear it going on?
Yes, I can.
Very exciting. Gets less exciting the more it goes on. Let's see who is faster. Would you read me your message, sir?
I just saved a bunch of money on my car insurance.
Is that is the message you sent, okay? Very good. Okay, there we have. Ben and Jason, I'm sorry you were beaten by 140-year-old technology. I'm sorry.
So there you go. So Morse code still reigns in relation to that. So, okay. So what I'd like to do this evening with everyone is give you a little latest on what's happening with Dstar, and that because you now have a Dstar system here in Sault Ste. Marie, I've talked to a lot of you on the Dstar network joining us on the nets. We have the Monday night Northern Ontario Dstar net, which SNR repeater is connected to, and on Wednesday, thanks to Elmer here, suggestion of gaining the Manitoulin gang, Elliott Lake and Sault Ste. Marie together for kind of an open rag chew to get people more familiar with Dstar. Just curious, with the show of hands, how many here do have Dstar equipment? Okay, so quite a number of you. That's great. And if something, if you're not involved in Dstar, then don't be scared about it. What I'm going to do tonight is give you a little idea on how you can slowly enter into the Dstar area and take advantage of some of the great things that Dstar has to offer with us this evening. So, what does Dstar stand for? It stands for Digital Smart Technology for Amateur Radio, and that's where it came from. The Digital Smart Technology for Amateur Radio, and that's the acronym for Dstar. Everybody loves acronyms, but if somebody says, what does Dstar? This is basically what it stands for. So I'm just going to take a few minutes and show you a little video here about Dstar. It's a little older, some of the newer technology is out here, but it gives you a good overall view of what Dstar is all about.
It was in 1901, more than a century ago, that Marconi succeeded in the world's first transatlantic radio telegraph communications. Even after that historic experiment, it has been radio amateurs that have been pioneering the advance in radio communications. Now, amateur radio is evolving into the digital communication era. Digital Smart Technology for Amateur Radio, or Dstar, is a digitalized network of amateur radio system that's been promoted by the Japan Amateur Radio Union. It was born in Japan and started to expand worldwide. We are again opening the door to a new world. Let us introduce the Dstar system to you. Dstar allows simplex communications as well as communication through a repeater, as with analog amateur radio. Dstar's most outstanding feature is the system optimization for the Internet. Yes, Dstar allows you to access the Internet. When a transmission from a terminal radio reaches a Dstar repeater, it will be relayed to a specified destination repeater through gateways according to the setting of the radio terminal. This station could be the next neighborhood, the next city, or even a different country. Since Dstar uses the Internet, constant and stable communication is always possible, regardless of the distance between you and the other radio station.
Such gateway relay Dstar repeaters are already deployed in many countries, and the Dstar network is growing rapidly. Now let us talk about the fantastic futuristic features of Dstar. As mentioned, the Internet Gateway feature allows you to talk to stations virtually anywhere. The only requirements are a Dstar compatible radio, a conventional antenna system, and the repeater equipment. Enjoy casual, local, or worldwide communications anytime. The crystal clear voice quality of the digital modulation is also the other attraction of Dstar. Even distant overseas stations sound as if they are right next door. There is no annoying noise as with analog FM at the fringes of the communication range. In addition to the voice communications with the digital voice mode, serial text data can be sent simultaneously as slow data traffic. The data-dedicated digital data mode enables Ethernet-compatible 128 kbps data communication. Currently, Dstar operators are enjoying the latest Dstar application of GPS position data reporting. With a Dstar radio and GPS receiver, you can see your position, exchange the information data with other stations, and see their position data on your radio display. Stations can be shown on a map on a PC screen when mapping software is used. The GPS feature will be a useful function to not only inform other stations, but for example, rescue teams if you get lost. The fast digital mode is compatible with the Internet protocol. Therefore, many current applications like web browsing and email can be used with Dstar. Dstar's limitless possibility of applications developed by amateur radio operators will further enhance the enjoyment of this system. For example, position reporting systems using Google Earth or chat rooms over the Dstar network are some of the potential ideas that can be put into reality. As the Dstar repeater system can be relatively easily installed, many amateur radio groups have installed and networked them by themselves already. There are various kinds of Dstar repeater equipment components which can be selected according to the frequency ranges and operation modes the site operator wishes to do. Now for an introduction of some Dstar compatible radios. The ID1 operates in the 1.2 GHz band, digital voice mode, and fast data mode. The IC2840H is a dual-band VHF and UHF digital voice mode mobile transceiver with an optional GPS unit to allow you the enjoyment of simultaneous position recording. The IC92AD is a rugged submergible dual-band multifunction handheld transceiver. This radio also works with the optional HM175 GPS microphone for position recording in places where only your feet can get you to. There are more Dstar compatible radios, such as the tough-handy ICV82, the tiny but powerful mobile radio ID800H, and the take anything and still keep going IC2200H. An ample selection of radios to suit anyone's Dstar lifestyle. Everything we know of is going digital. Despite being nearly a century old, amateur radio is no exception and an ageless leader of technology in any era. Dstar was born for amateur radio operators and is being grown by amateur radio operators. As the history of radio communications has advanced because of amateur radio operators, we will continue to lead the evolution of Dstar technology into the mainstream of the new era of radio communications. The time is already upon us when the phrase Dstar equals amateur radio is no exaggeration. Video content supervised by the Japan Amateur Radio League. Production assisted by ICOM Incorporated.
Okay, I'll just stop it there. I apologize. The audio on it was horrible. They had the music levels on the one side too loud for the audio on it, but that's the way it was on the internet there. And of course, that's an older video. They don't have an updated one with all the latest radios, but I've got in the presentation we'll get to show you a little bit here too. So what is Dstar basically? Well, it's the digital smart technology for the amateur radio, and it was developed by the Japanese Radio Relay League in Japan about 15 years ago. And basically their idea was to advancement of the hobby. Things were starting to go digital, whether it was satellite television to DVDs, everything seemed to be going digital market, so why shouldn't amateur radio? So the Japanese got together and they said, they contacted ICOM and said, let's develop a radio system that'll do digital technology with it. So they thought that was a great idea. But the Japanese wanted to do what they called call sign routing. Similar, and if you can parallel it with a cell phone, everybody gets a 7-digit cell phone number. If I want to call you anywhere in the world, I dial that number, it goes into the cellular network and it travels around looking for where your signal is, and it rings out through that digital tower. Well, they wanted to do amateur radio in a very similar way, that if you had your call sign, and every radio would be designed so you program your call sign into the radio, doesn't matter where you are in the world, if I set up a channel where I put your call sign in the your call area of the radio, then what it's going to do is go through the network system, find out where you are, and the audio will come out over that repeater and that. So they thought, wow, that's a great technical idea. So it was funded by the Japanese government, administered by the Japanese Amateur Radio Relay League, and they did open specification published in 2001 in relation to it. So it came to America in December 2003. The first Dstar repeater went up in Dallas, Texas. And in 2005, 2 years later, the first gateway, which means the first repeater was connected to the internet in relation to that. Now what happened was the Americans looked at this Dstar system and said, this is pretty cool. We'd like to be able to call specific stations and that, but what about connecting to other Dstar repeaters? What about connecting to a reflector? And the Japanese turned around and said, well, we didn't design the system that way. So a group in Texas called the K-Phi TIT, basically the Texas Institute of Technology, developed so that they came out with a system, what they call D Extra, which or D Plus, sorry, which adds to the G2 software and basically encompasses so that you can do repeater to repeater technology. Because the Japanese said, no, we developed the system only from one station to one station. Why would you want to connect repeaters to repeaters? And the Americans said, well, this is what hams do. We talk to one another, you know. So they took the technology and took it over, and they introduced it in Dayton in 2005 with the ID1 and the RP2, which was the repeater promotion, and additional systems and gateways were installed. As time went on, in the spring, the RP2000V, which is a 2-meter repeater, and then the 440 repeater, the 4000. In Dayton of 2006, 48 users were on 4 gateways in the USA. So there were only 48 people in all of the US that were on Dstar. The first phase of the rapid growth starts with Dstar. So, what are some of the false rumors people thought about Dstar? Well, it's just another digital voice mode. Well, it is another digital voice mode, but it was designed for ham radio specifically, not commercial. Dstar is just like Echolink or the IROP. Well, yes, it is, but you have the voice technology in regards to the digital, which is the real selling feature. Dstar is priority to ICOM. Well, ICOM has the chip for it, the AMBE chip, and it won't last because it's just strictly to ICOM. Well, I'll dispel that rumor later on this evening. Dstar is very expensive. Absolutely, it was really expensive when the first radios came out. However, now the radios have come way down in price, and I'm going to show you some things that is very inexpensive to get started in Dstar. And it's too complicated to use. There is a learning curve, there's no doubt about it, but it's like anything else. It's like any of you that learned CW at the beginning, it was very difficult. Then all of a sudden a light bulb came on, you were able to copy. Well, the same thing happens with Dstar. The initial use is difficult, but it comes on very, very quickly. Why is it interesting? Well, spectrum efficiency. As the pairs in larger centers now, with any group trying to get a repeater pair in any major city in the US or even in Canada now is extremely impossible. The nice thing with digital is we only use a 6.25 kilohertz spectrum emission, which now we can put multiple channels within the 2 meter or 440 band, more so than what we could before. So it works out well. If you take a look at a spectrum analyzer, at the top is analog, at the bottom is digital. So you can see that it narrows, and what you're getting is pure audio. You're not getting any of the carrier, the picket fencing, the hashing, the fading. It's just as soon as that first packet of digital information gets through, it doesn't matter if you're 1,000 miles away or 100 feet away, you're going to get that pure digital audio. Simultaneous voice and data capability. So not only are you able to hear the voice, but if you have a Dstar radio, you're able to watch the screen at the bottom and see the call sign of the individual calling, his or her name, and their location where they're located, or if there's a short message they put on it, that can happen too with it. So that's kind of nice to have it. High-speed data capability. So they had the 1.2 gig radio, which can equivalent to 128 kilobyte Ethernet. So there were some organizations that used strictly Dstar with computers hooked to the high-speed radios that were sending digital information, files, documents, pictures, all kinds of things over the network system. Linking capability. So user linking versus site linking, right? So you can link to another user using call sign routing, or we can link repeaters together. And this has kind of brought Northern Ontario together. Our Monday night Dstar net is that we're getting the communities of Timmins, Sudbury, Sault Ste. Marie, Elliott Lake, and Manitoulin that all have Dstar capabilities to control. Friday night, as Brent mentioned in my bio there, I run the CanNet, the Canadian Dstar net, and we're coast to coast from St. John's, Newfoundland, right to Vancouver, Victoria, British Columbia, up to Whitehorse. And we get all these people checking in on Saturday, or on Friday night at 9 o'clock. It's on Reflector XRF 21, and I'll tell you, it's a great capability. But what the real selling feature of Dstar, and if anybody has heard it, you know that you get the pure digital. These are some quick recordings that I was able to take off the internet.
Okay, I found a place to turn around. This is KC5 ZRQ on digital. Can you hear me? Okay, I'm going to switch to FM. So let's go ahead and switch to FM. This is KC5 ZRQ on digital audio. We're going to change over to FM. And this is KC5 ZRQ on FM. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Roger, can you hear? Okay, what did that sound like when I was on FM? Could you hear me okay? Really, I mean, I could hear you, and you really weren't all that noisy. You were just real quiet.
So, there you go. There's a difference between FM and digital. If the first packet got through, you can hear the clarity on it. Here's another example.
This is K7JL testing Dstar. This is a test transmission for the purpose of evaluating propagation effects on digital and analog transmissions. This transmission will now repeat in analog. This is K7JL. This is K7JL testing Dstar. This is a test transmission for the purpose of evaluating propagation effects on digital and analog transmissions. This is K7JL.
So when I first heard that, I said, this is BS. This can't be true. Like, how can somebody sounding on FM all of a sudden come through crystal clear like that? Well, I thought I'd do my own test. So what So I got a hold of a fellow amateur, Bill, V3BK. He lives in Sudbury, and direct from my home QTH in Little Current to his is approximately about 98 kilometers, almost 100 kilometers as the crow flies, and that we're right on the marginal level of doing simplex 5.2 communications on FM analog. So what I did is I did a little test one Sunday morning with him, and this is what it sounded like. Now my audio isn't digital coming through the radio. I've got a microphone to the microphone of the radio, so you're just going to hear my voice direct, but listen to Bill's voice as we go through it here. All right, good morning to you, Bill. V3BK, this is V3AJB testing on 146.52 simplex from Little Current to Sudbury. How copy? V3BK, V3AJB.
V3AJB, V3BK, and Sudbury coming back. Just opening the squelch here, Al, and but perfectly copyable. Over.
Okay, so that was FM. So what we did, same antenna, same power, same radio. I just flipped to digital. He had the same at his place. All right, V3BK, V3AJB calling on 145.67 simplex on digital. 145.67 on digital. We'll see how you're copying from Little Current to Sudbury. Same power as we did on FM. V3BK, V3AJB standing by for your reply. Go ahead.
V3AJB, this is V3BEK, Bill in Sudbury, Ontario. Copying Q5 copy, no dropouts. Oh, back to you.
Okay, sounding 100% there, Bill. Thank you very much. V3BK, V3AJB. So then we put the two of them together. V3BK, V3BEK. Can you copy, Bill, on 146.52 FM simplex from Little Current to Sudbury? Go ahead, Bill. V3BK, V3AJB.
V3AJB, this is V3BEK returning. No signal strength, but copyable.
Okay, very good, Bill. When we come back, I'm going to call you on digital. QSL will go to digital simplex.
QSL.
V3BK, V3AJB. Do you copy, Bill?
V3AJB, this is V3BEK. Copy, full quieting.
Roger, on full quieting on digital. Thank you, Bill.
QSL, V3BEK.
So that was the difference, and one of the things that sold me on it, right? So when you're at the fringe area, digital will far superior over the analog FM in the quality, providing the first packet gets in there. Now, if the first packet doesn't get in there, we have a condition on digital that's called R2-D2, like the robot from Star Wars. It kind of, it's pixely, right? It, you know, it breaks up and that with it. It's like if any of you've got a satellite dish at home, whether it's with Bell, ExpressView, or Shaw, or whatever, and you get that snowstorm or the rain or whatever, you notice the pictures start to go all pixely and squares, and it, you know, does that. Well, that's digital will do that. But overall, the audio is extremely good, and the reason for that is that you will notice here the audio quality. There is no picket fencing, there's no fading on digital, so it doesn't matter if you're a mile from the repeater or 20 miles away from the repeater, the digital quality signal is going to be the same. And they say the extended range, if you were to have two repeaters side by side, same tower, same power, one's FM analog, one's digital, you're going to get between 20 to 30% more coverage out of the digital repeater, and with less power too with it. So it works extremely well. Now with it, they have what they call a vocoder chip, which basically breaks up the audio from the analog into a binary type of system, and then redesigns it to come out with digital there. I won't bother going into all just because of time frame, but the priority vocoder chip that ICOM has, it's like any of the other systems where it takes the analog, digitizes it, and then sends it back out and back and forth in relation to that. The AMBE, the Advanced Multiband Excitation, is a very powerful priority speech coding standard developed by Digital Voice Systems. So this was the first digital system designed for amateur radio. The majority of all the other digital systems, P25 and that, was for commercial. The OPP for many years used P25 with it. And when we went from the old analog system to digital, oh my goodness, what a change in regards to the communications that we had with it. So it works well, and the FEC is the forward error correction in relation to it. Now, in the digital systems out there, there's many different, there's Dstar with the ICOM, there's AOR, there's P25 phase 1, P25 phase 2, the Tetrapol, DIMRS, IDRA, ECADS or EDAX, EDAS, and there's all kinds of digital systems, but ICOM was the first one to go with amateur communications, and they both all use that IMBE chip and that with it, just a little difference with it. Dstar radios out there, of course, in the video you saw the old ones. These are the older radios that were the first level technology. The IC 2200 at the bottom was a standard FM, straight only 2-meter rig, and you put the chip in it and bang, it turned it into a digital. The ID 800, of course, all these radios are discontinued now. The IC 91, which was replaced, it's identical to the IC 80, which I understand some of you have here. The 2820, still a great rig. It was a Cadillac when they first came out. You needed the UT 123 Dstar GPS option with it. Now everything's built into the newer radios. And the IC V82 was the first handheld with it. Now we've got the 880 or the 80 and the 880 radios. They've discontinued those now, but still excellent radios. You can still find them on the market fairly cheap, and I think, Dave, you did a promotion for the club or something where you found out the prices and a lot of them.
Last year we were able to cash in on Radio World's ICOM month.
Right.
And which they had the IC80 on for $199.
Yeah, which is great. $200 for a digital handheld, and they're great radios. There's nothing wrong with them at all. They work really well. Now, of course, they've come out with the new ID31, which is a UHF handheld, and the ID51 UHF VHF handheld. That's this one here at the break. You can come up and have a look at it if you haven't seen this one here. Yeah, you can have a look at it if you wish. And of course, mobile wise or HF wise, they have the IC7100, which is HF, VHF, UHF, and then of course the base station, the IC9100. Now, at the ICOM forum, they wouldn't come out and say it, but what's happening is ICOM are now developing two new radios. One's going to be handheld, one's going to be a mobile. It's going to have full colored screen, touch screen capabilities similar to what Yaesu has and that. So they're just in the they haven't announced it. They weren't ready for Dayton, but I can see by the fall they'll be announcing it, and they'll be going like hotcakes, I'm sure, by Dayton next year at this time. So they're developing 2 brand new radios, and of course their latest radio, which anybody that's got one, it's a fabulous radio with the DR technology in it, which is the near repeaters. You don't even need to have the control channels. You push a button on it and it tracks your GPS in the head of the radio. It's got a built-in GPS, lets you know where you are. So if I drove through Sault Ste. Marie and had no idea what the SNR repeater was or the frequency, I push the direct button on it and bang, all of a sudden VA3 SNR comes up, 145, 210, automatically programs it in the radio, and away you go. So you can travel North America not knowing where a Dstar, because it's all built in to the technology on the chip or the micro SD card that goes in there. Now, here's the newest. Kenwood has come aboard. This is the new Kenwood Dstar handheld. Now, unfortunately, the picture's not the greatest because it was behind glass and they had a security guard standing by the box, right? If all else. So, anyway, this is what it's going to be. It's a Kenwood fully touchscreen, color display, full Dstar technology in it. Here's the brochure. I'll pass it around so you can all have a look at it. They didn't come out with a price yet or when it's actually going to be on the market. They said pretty soon. And the nice thing about it, if you're into APRS, it's got all the Kenwood APR technology built into it too. So it's a new one that's coming out there. Now, for those that don't want to buy a Dstar radio, you can go out and get a DV dongle. I'll do a demonstration later on if you haven't seen it. This is what the DV dongle looks like. Comes with a little cable with USB. You plug it into your laptop, your desktop, and what this does is it turns your computer into a full Dstar radio that you can connect to repeaters and reflectors. Cost of this $179 to get involved with Dstar. So you can travel with it, use it off a laptop, and you've got full Dstar capability with it.
Just going to mention, Al, that Kenwood was actually part of the working group with the Dstar in the beginning, but they chose not to develop the radio.
Well, they figured they were going to fall on their faces, right?
Yeah.
With the thing, and they didn't get involved. Now they're
in Japan. Apparently, they bought had ICOM make radios with their name on it.
Yes.
Kenwood.
Yeah.
But they discontinued that after a while. So now they're getting back into it.
They're getting back into it. And in the commercial technology, you may have heard NXND, which is the next edge with Kenwood, and IDAS, which is with ICOM. And the commercial, either radio will work either system. What's going to happen now with Dstar, Kenwood, and ICOM are now together. So Kenwood is just starting to develop. So if you're a Kenwood, enthusiast, there's going to be new radios coming out with Dstar capabilities with it. The DV digital point, or the DVAP as we call it, again, it's like the dongle, except it's got a little rubber ducky on it. You plug that into your computer and away you go. Now people have got them hooked up into, and I'll show you one that I brought with me, into portable units with using Raspberry Pis and portable units that way. The DV Mini Hotspot, the latest technology that will not only do Dstar Digital, but it will do System Fusion, C4FM, DMR, P25, and DPMR digital there. And we'll do a demonstration with that. I have one of those here. And I was showing the fellas at the senior group the Nano DV Digital Radio Hotspot. You don't need a computer, this little device here. And this is what it looks like. Just screw on the antenna on the side. I'll pass it along. We'll do a demonstration of this a little later. But that's all you need with that, and a Dstar handheld. You'll be able to talk around the world with it there. So you can have a look at that and that with it. So the DV protocol, you've got a radio header, you got bit synchronization, 64 bits. It breaks it down, and realigns it with the radio ID in it and that. And then of course you need 4 major things. Every radio has to have your home or your my call in it, and then you need your call, and then repeater 1 and repeater 2. So how big is Dstar locally? Well, right now on the V3 RXR system in Little Current, we have 2 repeaters. We have a C 2 meter and we have a B 440. Those are the frequencies. Right now, the latest numbers, we've got 26 people out of our 100-member club that have Dstar radios. So it's about a quarter of the people involved. And there's over 35,000 Dstar users accessible via 1,996 gateway systems worldwide. When I say gateway, that's a repeater with the internet connected to it. How has it grown? Well, it was introduced in 2006 in Dayton, 48 users on 4 gateways. A year later, 539 users, 36 gateways, almost 100 repeater systems deployed. Now includes 2 meters, 70 centimeters, and 1.2 gigs with it. June of 2008, 3,253 registered users, 190 systems. Then in January 2009, 7 months later, it doubled, 6,500, 349 systems on the gateway. And at that time during January 2009, any given 24-hour system, there were 1,200 people using Dstar. How is it still growing? 9 months later, what's happened there was that now you've got 17,326 registered users with over 570 repeater systems, and the average number went up to 3,200 people using it in a 24-hour period. Estimated 250 new Dstar users registering each week in the world. And how has it grown since 2019? Well, 4 years later, in 2013, basically we've got 35,692 registered gateway users around the world, almost 2,000 repeater systems on the group, and now in a 24-hour period you've got 11,384 people. Now that was 3 years ago. About 700 new Dstar users each week around the world. 4 years later, okay? How's it grown in Canada? February 2009, 24 registered repeater systems, repeater call signs, 60 repeaters using 2 meters, 70 and 1.2 gigs, 10 repeaters in Ontario. March 2013, 56 registered repeater call signs and 110 repeaters, and 36 in Ontario. February 2016, the latest stats a couple of months ago, 67 registered repeater call signs, 135 repeaters in use, and 43 in Ontario. So in a matter of 6-7 years, we've gone from 10 repeaters to 43. So it is definitely growing, and that. You can go to the various websites. I'm not going to bother going to it, but the one you need to look at is dstarusers.org. Excellent site, give you all the information. This is what a Dstar repeater stack looks. Dstar repeater stack looks like with all the repeater systems and that with it. You can have digital 1.2 gig, voice 1.2 gig, voice 2 meter, and voice 440, and a combination of either or of those. Again, we talked about the DV protocol and what needs to be programmed. So programming your radios, there are 4 main things. Frequency shifting, of course, as you would with an FM analog. There's no tones on Dstar, but you need to put your call under the My Call area in there. Your call is the destination call sign. So what do I want to call? If it's CQ, 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 that's talking to everyone. If it's V3RXRC, that's what I want to connect to. If it's somebody's individual call sign, that's what you want to do. And then the repeater 1 is the first module that it goes into, and repeater 2 is what it comes out of. So V3 or VA3 SNR-C, VA3 SNR-G for the gateway with it. Right? Easy way to remember it. My call is your Industry Canada call sign. Your call, who do you want to talk to? Repeater 1 goes into, right? Kind of a slang term at the local system. So you go into, so I'm going to go into VA3 SNR port C, and I want to come out VA3 SNR G out the gateway, so it goes across, goes out of. Repeater 1, repeater 2. You can talk simplex, you can talk through a repeater system with it, right? No gateway access, so you can use it as a regular repeater without gateway, or you can connect to a gateway and go out the internet. You can connect to multiple repeaters through one system. And call sign routing, you can put somebody's name in there, which will route it through the system and look for their last known spot on the internet. And then we have the reflectors, which are a bandwidth like XRF21 Bravo for Monday night. We have V3RXRC from Manitoulin, VA3SRG from Sudbury, VA3SNR from Sault Ste. Marie, and V3TIR from Timmins. All those systems are connected, and we can talk just like you and I are talking right now. And it's pretty cool. DRATS, Dstar spelled backwards, is a program that can use to send file transfers, text messaging, and that across Dstar, pictures, etc. with it. And DPARS, which is the APRS but uses digital positioning reporting systems. It can be tracked and you can see where you're going. Little history on our Dstar repeater. This is McLean's Mountain up on the top of the hill. We're about 1,300 feet above the water level, and the tower is a 400-foot tower. We're up about 275 feet, 300 feet up the tower. We started out with a 2-meter. One of our club members down in the States, Dave Filmer, W9DF, donated the repeater and the controller. We got free MSD computer internet connection right at the tower site, so we were quite pleased with that. We used an old computer with it, and then as we upgraded, we now are in we're housed at McLean's Mountain in a larger building. We did get a Lions Club donation of $5,600 towards it. We bought the UHF component with the filterings from Angle Linear and new duplexers, a new computer at the top there. And that's what, so when you're talking to Manitoulin, that's the picture of the system you're coming through. We have a Sinclair 210C4, about 1,300 feet, and a UHF 310C4 with it there. You can see the second guide wire down, that's the 210C4, and the third guide wire down, that's the 310C4 with it. Works fairly well. We've got good coverage. As a matter of fact, I was able to key it up on Iron Bridge, which shows the distance of it. And that's it. So that's it for Dstar. I'll stand by for any questions when we take a 10-minute break, and I'll set up some of the devices here, and we'll take a look at that. And if you're interested, I've got a little presentation in relation to System Fusion if you want to hear about that. So I'll leave it up to you guys.
Was it before they got the gateway or the internet connection working that they